Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Lefty. Hey, Lefty, what you say?
Yo, what's up? Welcome to the Lucky Lefty podcast. We are the best lefties in the game in podcast land because we spin it different. I am Shaun Davis at SB2 Mics, the original Lucky Lefty. Malik Zaire at Overtime Malik. Bro, this is the Slant each and every week. And basically, we're going to talk about some things that Brian Kelly said at the press conference that we might have to interpret or read through the minutia to let people know, like, man, you might want to look at it a different way.
That's right.
Give our final outlooks on the Purdue game before we look forward to this weekend. And then we'll recap some of the goings on in week 3 of college football. It was some really good games, man. I think the game down in you said it too, that Swamp was a difficult place to play.
Difficult place.
Bryce Young proved himself, but I think Nick Saban, put it like this: I think Florida walks away from that game saying, "Yo, we want them in a championship game."
Well, yeah, you got to break down also, what makes the difference of the quarterback. So if you have a great quarterback, you'll have a really good team. But if you have a phenomenal quarterback, you'll have a great team. And I think right now Alabama, they've been fortunate enough to have phenomenal quarterbacks in that situation to make their team great. I think Bryce is on his way, but as a first-year guy, it's hard to be phenomenal.
Well, let's get to it, man. Brian Kelly did speak with the media on yesterday, and very interesting things. The first thing I want to talk about, of course, a lot of people want to talk about Graham Mertz taking the job away from Jack Cohn, this possibly being a revenge game for Jack Cohn, facing his former team, and Brian Kelly to make it seem like it was nothing.
You got to play the game. Jack's a competitor. He loved his time at Wisconsin, but it's a new chapter for him. And he's like I said, a very mature, level-headed. He wants to beat Wisconsin, but he wants to beat the following week Cincinnati, and the week after. So, I think we can make as much as we want and make it a story. In the building, it's not that much of a story to him.
Yeah, right.
I don't, that's some coach talk, coach speak. Jack knows what it means to him, and his teammates know.
100% knows.
His teammates know what it means to him.
A lot of it, too, I think, first of all, we're the first Black Irish interpreters for head coach Brian Kelly. I think that's something to be proud of.
That's something to be proud of. Absolutely.
We can give him the insight on how we feel like he really probably sees it. Number one.
So go inside the conversations, like the player conversations at table.
Well,
right?
Number one, if it's not about Coach Kelly, he's not going to make it seem as important because Coach Kelly 100% is not only thinking of Wisconsin, but he's looking at Cincinnati, he's looking at Virginia Tech, and he wants Jack to play great in all of those. So he's not going to let the moment be summed up by this game this week, even though it is a big game. Secondly, 100% Jack's thinking everything of this game. This is probably the reason why Notre Dame was high on this list, because this is a good team that can match up well against his former team. I know losing the job in his situation to a younger guy was probably something he probably felt a different way it should have went, but understanding the business, the younger guy's just going to get the nod more times than not. This is a good opportunity for him, and he's probably hasn't expressed it as much to the team as you would think, only because, he's still new and they don't really probably understand the magnitude, but the team probably understands what it means for him outside looking in and probably want to play a little bit harder this week. It will be a little more if it was at Wisconsin. I feel like emotionally it'll probably be a little more, but playing at a neutral site, I think it'd be good for him to be able to see it as almost as another game. But I think Coach Kelly should put a little bit more mention on the fact that this is a game that could affect his quarterback mentally. As much as he doesn't want to tell the media, it probably would in a lot of sense. And he probably has to keep an eye on that, whether it be maybe an early pick six like against Toledo that could in that Toledo game not make that much of a difference, but in the Wisconsin game maybe it does.
Yeah.
You got to know that Wisconsin's defense, if I was them, I'd probably try to talk a little trash. That's something to be aware of concerning the fact that, he's not the starting quarterback at this team that he left. So there's a lot of narratives you can play. I think Coach Kelly played it smart by not talking as much about the one game standing out amongst the others. But I know this would be big for Jack. When I was transferring and had an opportunity to go to North Carolina, and we played North Carolina a year, I was definitely looking into it to play Notre Dame, but at the time, North Carolina was not a good team.
I was just about to ask you that. Like, when you were looking around, were you looking at the schedules like?
100%. 100%. I told Coach Kelly I wanted to play against them at the time, when I was leaving. At first, he had a problem with it, but, he realized that he can't really, that would be messed up. So, had the opportunity to play North Carolina. It wasn't the team right at that point to play, to be in position to win. But this is a different situation for Jack.
Right.
And something he's probably excited for, man. I mean, everybody wants to go back and get their little revenge.
I learned a lot by listening to what Brian Kelly just said. And what I learned is that I don't like coach speak.
Yeah, it's not.
I don't like it. It's boring. And for us fans, I would just love for a coach to walk out there and just kind of like pull a Lou Holtz against Miami in the locker room and be like, yeah, Jack wants to kick that.
Yeah, Dan Campbell style, man. I think that coach got great energy with that.
Yeah, he wants it, and we're going to help him do it. I would be like, oh, my God. I'd be like, I want to run through the wall right now.
That's right.
Like, let's go.
But maybe that would help us start faster in games if Coach Kelly gave more of a rah-rah in his press conference. I feel like it'd just be a different Coach Kelly. Every year you want to evolve. Maybe that's something he wants to evolve into.
You know what? It's technically a home game for Wisconsin. I just thought about this, man. I'll be in the building.
Of course.
And dude, if I have to witness that jump around crap in Chicago, like, dude, this isn't Madison, man. This is Chicago. This is Soldier Field.
What's the demographic on the tickets? Do we have a good standing in Chicago for this game?
Oh, Chicago is a Notre Dame town.
It is, but it also
it's a Big Ten. It's a Big Ten town. Tons of Big Ten alumni from like everywhere, like every Big Ten team you can think of. Yeah. Heavy Wisconsin, heavy Iowa. The heaviest is probably Illinois. That's the strongest alumni in the city of Chicago. Then probably Northwestern, and then Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State kind of bring up the rear. So Wisconsin's like a 90-minute drive.
They're going to travel for this one. Everybody wants to travel for the Notre Dame.
They're going to travel.
Arizona State traveled to Dallas Cowboys Stadium when we played them in the Shamrock game, and it was about 50-50.
Look, you know what? Let's get to that, because have you seen they released the new Shamrock joints that they're wearing on Saturday?
I feel like they've already had those.
Yo, now my favorite Shamrock uniform
was the white joints from 2011 or 20.
When they played Purdue in Indianapolis, right?
Those were nice. Those are the blue ones. I'm talking about the all white ones from Arizona State.
Well, I'm rocking with you with the big numbers with the green outline. Funky fresh. Funky fresh. Now, you might disagree with me. The other Shamrock game that I witnessed, shout out to my boy Jared Payton. I had to, give it to him. Went to the game in 2012 at Soldier Field when we smashed Miami. Blew them out. We had the double-sided helmet with the Fighting Irish on one side and the other side. That helmet was fresh.
That was hard.
The helmet was fresh. I didn't like the jersey so much.
The most complete one was the Green Bean 2015 at the Fenway Park.
Oh, the Fenway Park with the Yankee kind of pinstripe?
No, the all green ones. The all green ones.
Yes.
Yes. We played in Boston.
Yeah.
against Boston College. That was the best one.
That was fresh.
Because we had the green face mask too. We was doing
What sneaks did you rock? What sneaks did you rock with those?
We had the green bean, lima bean, Cam Newton Jones.
You had the Cam Newton joints?
That's when that was this Cam.
Right.
That was
before the Under Armour deal.
This MVP Cam, yes, sir. This is when he was doing commercials with yogurt.
No, but I'm saying Adidas was making a uniform back then? That was before the Under Armour deal, right?
This was after the Under Armour deal.
This is after the Under Armour. Okay.
We was Under Armour 2014 transitioned after the Shamrock game.
Oh, man.
There's a little history we got in that Shamrock, man. We know a little bit of history over there.
The Shamrock game has been dope and it's definitely been impactful on recruiting because it definitely widened the net and gave exposure at a time where I felt like the program really needed that national exposure for the recruiting base.
The NFL stadiums was the kicker, man. It was cool to be almost a pro, playing at different NFL stadiums multiple times during the year. I mean, we played everywhere.
So this year's version is, it's all right.
They're not trying. You got teams now with all types of crazy jerseys. I get the tradition, but man, the tradition at least got some variety at least. You know, there's some creativity and tradition as well.
Yeah, I just think that. Yeah, I agree.
Maybe put some flames on there or something.
Well, they tried to put something on the shoulder pads, and it was
what? No, you saw how it was. It's so small you don't notice it on TV. You don't even notice it from the stands. It's like, come on.
Man, I'm trying to get the fans a sneak peek of the uniforms. I think
it's so dry. It's so come on.
There they go. That's the Shamrock series, which is basically the home
navy blue Chicago Bears jersey. We just better win the game.
So I don't know, man. They didn't do anything with the helmet. They could have put some stripes going down the pants or something.
They could have gave some accessories to my guy in the picture.
Right.
No, nothing. It's 20.
He could have been holding up the glove like this, something.
We might as well just put the regular brown helmets on again. You know, if we want to be that traditional. Put them leather helmets on and do stitch cotton type of jerseys.
Hey, Notre Dame does very well in the field, not just in fashion from the uniforms, but they perform well in the Shamrock series. Shamrock series has had some memorable games. The Arizona State game was memorable. The Indianapolis game against Purdue. Purdue was a huge underdog in that game.
Huge underdog.
And as we always say, Purdue always plays well, plays hard.
Right. Yeah, plays
against Notre Dame. So let's go to the next thing we have to interpret for Brian Kelly. This is very interesting. He had a team that he felt like reminded him of Wisconsin, and he compared Wisconsin to this team. I'll get your thoughts on this.
Part of this game is that we're going to have to make some big plays. There's no doubt about it. So that and, get off the field, against a team that wants to control the ball. So, kind of going back to what I said earlier, Tim, is that if you think about this as a Navy game, is that scoring touchdowns is at a premium. Kicking field goals is not going to get it done for you. So scoring touchdowns, being really efficient on the offensive side of the ball. And when you get matchups, you better win those matchups.
I mean, you want to score touchdowns every game.
Yeah, it's like saying we're going to run and pass this week.
Right. It's like, come on, man. Like this coach speak, I tell you.
When you're doing it so long, you're not going to fix what's not broken. But as a team comparison, if we're saying we're Wisconsin, then that means that we don't have the explosive plays or players that can make plays each and every week. I don't think Wisconsin has a Kyron Williams. I don't think that Wisconsin has uh, Michael Mayer, that's for sure. I don't think Wisconsin has even an Avery Davis. Now they I don't even think they have a Kevin Austin. Now they got some fast guys, but I think we do have unique skill players enough to distinguish ourselves from Wisconsin. In terms of time possession, I believe Coach Chris wants to score. I don't think he's trying to Navy his way out of any game. If you watch the Penn State game, they were trying to score a lot, and they was in the red zone a lot. If it wasn't for a few fumbles and a couple picks, Wisconsin is definitely not trying to have a low-scoring game, I don't think, and neither should we. We're thinking a 40, 35-point-plus game every week. So, no, I don't think that we're comparable to Wisconsin. However, it is going to come down to who's going to make the most explosive plays.
Yeah.
We have more talent to do that, but in a game like this, I hope Jack doesn't, overthrow guys or start underthrowing guys because he's trying to be too perfect. That can be the big underlying story of this week.
It's amazing, man, because I look at Wisconsin, I looked at the schedule before the season. I really wasn't worried about this game, right? Because I just felt like Wisconsin wasn't going to be able to put up points. I felt like they were going to try to run the ball. And I knew they had two receivers coming back, but they really weren't explosive guys that you really had to worry about. And then when I saw the attrition in their backfield in the offseason, and now they're dependent upon a transfer to carry the load, I just really felt like, okay, the depth that we have and the playmakers that we have are going to be the difference in this game. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? God dog it. Paul Chryst is the head coach, man.
Yeah, great coach.
That dude walked into Notre Dame Stadium with Pittsburgh in 2012 and nearly pulled it off.
So that's my second favorite coach, actually. I was going to commit to him. I was leaving Pittsburgh, and then I got a call to Notre Dame, and that's kind of how it all happened because I was going to go to Wisconsin when he was there. The year before I was supposed to go, he went to Pittsburgh. I took a visit, and then I got an offer from Notre Dame the same day. I was coming back from the visit, and then I committed Notre Dame like the week after. Second time around, I was going to commit to Wisconsin, but I was just so sick of the cold, I ended up going to Florida. But Coach, all in saying that, Coach Chris is hands down one of my favorite coaches and a coach that can make a difference in a game. A lot of coaches rely on their players, but Coach Chris is one of the few that he can coach his way to a victory as well.
Yeah, absolutely. State Street is something else up there in Madison, man. I will say that. Shout out to State Street.
That's the perfect college environment for a football player, for sure.
Absolutely, especially if you're winning games.
Russell Wilson years and the Chris Borland years, hell yeah.
All right, 12 o'clock kick early Saturday, Notre Dame, Wisconsin. Our preview, we'll get it tomorrow. We'll have a special guest. We'll dig deeper, offense versus defense and vice versa with both teams and get into the special teams as well. Jonathan Dorr was a little shaky last week. Hopefully, Soldier Field is real tricky.
It is.
When it comes to place kickers. That wind can swirl a different way at a moment's notice. So special teams can play huge in this game. Let's go ahead and talk about week 3 in college football. We kind of teased the Alabama-Florida game, so let's save that for last. Ohio State continues to struggle. Now, they can put up points, but that defense, Ryan Day the week before said he was going to make changes. They were going to change the schemes, which is never good, trying to change schemes in the middle of a season. I don't know how effective that can be. But I just don't. I honestly left, and we can connect these two games. I left with the impression that Penn State's the best team in the Big Ten after watching last week's games.
I do like Penn State, but I'm looking at Michigan. I think Michigan is looking to be a better team in the long run this year. Particularly, I think they got a good quarterback situation up there.
Yeah.
Ohio State's problem right now is that there's no superstars on the defense that usually stand out.
Yeah.
And it's something where Ohio State's in a rare position where they actually have to start coaching.
Yeah.
Their defensive scheme has been the same since we played them in 2014 and even before that when they was beating Bama in the championship, where those guys were dudes and they never came out of that same couple of schemes that they run. They don't run nothing complicated, very simple defense. So now you're in a position where teams have better talent that's better than your talent. And Oregon, had a perfect example of that where talent was very comparable, but coaching made the total difference. They got out coached in those last couple of drives on defense. But after a while, I mean, you're going to get better players, and the scheme doesn't change on defense. They don't run a lot of different looks. I mean, eventually, if you're not coaching, it's going to impact you.
You have to evolve with the times, right? Now, it'd be crazy if a team was still running bone triple option right now.
Day is a perfect example as well, though. Ryan's Day is a perfect example of a superstar quarterback coming into a superstar team.
Yeah.
You was already going 100 miles an hour. Now you slowing down a little bit. Now where's the boost coming back from? Yeah. Urban Meyer is an urban legend. I mean, he came in there to get it rolling, and he left it rolling. But now it's picked up some turbulence. It's picked up some things coming in between that. Yeah. And so it's kind of thrown off what's been going on. So for me, I think Ryan Day's in a perfect position to show why it's a new era out there in Columbus, to establish where his good coaching can come in and change the difference.
Man, let me tell you something. If Ohio State wins the Big Ten this year, I just don't see anybody beating them in the next 3 or 4 years, because they're not going to have another difficult deal like this. Whatever needs to be done over the 9 days is going to solve it, especially on that defensive end. If he has to go out and get another defensive coordinator, a whole new coaching staff, he's going to get it done. If he has to go out and recruit, he's going to get it done. So
yeah,
the only thing I would say, they do get Penn State at the Horseshoe. So that in itself is an edge. But Penn State, their defense is so fast and they play together so well, man. The mental fortitude that they showed me up at Camp Randall, to constantly have Wisconsin in the red zone early in that game and to just keep holding them to field goals and just waiting until Sean Clifford and that offense could finally make some big plays. That just showed me a lot.
But Penn State are some front runners, man. They look great when it's hot outside and lose traction when it gets cold. Surprisingly, being up at Penn State.
That has been the track record, especially under Coach Franklin.
And it's just so hard, when a team is looking like they're hitting their peak so early. I mean, they've been playing on all cylinders last week against Auburn.
Yeah.
They looked like they were hitting on all cylinders. It's just like most teams in the Big Ten. Can you sustain it when it matters late in the season? Ohio State's been the only team to prove that consistently so far in that conference. But, Penn State looked great with Saquon until they went to the Horseshoe. Yeah. It looked real pedestrian after that kick return.
Right. You're right.
We got to see when it gets down there.
As we said before, there's a streak of opponents for Notre Dame to have an off week right before they face Notre Dame. None other than Cincinnati, who's off this week after a big win in the state of Indiana as they defeat Indiana. Michael Penix Jr., awful start to the season for him against Iowa. But he recovered very nicely. And the Indiana offense and that team, they put forth a really good effort.
They did.
They could have seized control of that game early. They got some turnovers and they failed to convert. which kept Cincinnati in the game. And then once Ritter and the crew got on in the third quarter, it's just too much firepower for Indiana to keep up with.
Yeah, I'm still a big fan of Indiana. I think that a team like that where you're missing some talent in certain positions, you're going to miss. Sometimes you'll get off against a high-ranked opponent. You'll catch them off guard. But when you're sustaining expected greatness because they're not expected to be the Pits this year, it's a little harder. Now your talent starts to show where it's lacking in some positions that other teams got. Like Nebraska, I like what they got, even though they fell short to Oklahoma. I like their quarterback. Their quarterback is going to keep them in games. And
I don't see, man. I need to see more from Martinez, man.
He's going to do it this year.
I don't know. No. Sometimes you look at someone, you look at a kid, and you ask yourself, has Scott Frost really done enough to develop this kid?
That's true.
I know he's a playmaker.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning that. He showed his ability. I think Nebraska played Oklahoma. I came away from that game disappointed. I was disappointed in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
After watching that game.
Oklahoma's defense is always going to disappoint you.
Yeah. And their front, I thought the Nebraska front handled their Oklahoma offensive line, which is supposed to be one of their strengths. Spencer Rattler, Mims. I was like, okay, they made plays, but I wasn't overly impressed.
Right.
And, if Nebraska doesn't make one or two mistakes that cost them field position and shut down drives when they were driving into Oklahoma territory and getting deep, possibly into the red zone to be able to score, I think that game is totally different. I think Oklahoma is sweating in the fourth quarter just like they were against Tulane.
And that's the thing with these teams that are up and coming is that they're still struggling to string together the consistency to pull those games off, but they're on the edge. You saw UCLA early in the season look like they had a hot start against LSU, things that they would miss on years before they did better, but you see them losing to Fresno State, even though Fresno's a great team, but you beating the LSU, you're supposed to continue that hot streak, which is making college football better. It's showing that the talent is coming up.
Yeah.
And that even though there's still some clear dominant teams, it's getting competitive for these teams that are just jumping in the top 10 like we think.
Sleeper teams. Once again, BYU coming up huge. That game with Arizona State was a really good game.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably didn't see it because it was late on the West Coast. But that was a really good game. And I came away from that game impressed with BYU and Arizona State.
Arizona State got the young staff. I love what Herm Edwards doing. And BYU's a bunch of grown men. So, grown men always play well together, especially when you're playing a bunch of 18-year-olds. I mean, these guys are 3 or 4 years older. So that grown man strength's a real thing. But I love that BYU can they stay true to who they are as a team.
Yeah.
They're a tough physical team, and they can catch you if you're not all on fire and on all cylinders. So last year they just had a splash quarterback, Zach Wilson, who put them on notice that they are actually a team that can be consistently good. And so they haven't dropped off too much steam after Zach, but Arizona State, I'm liking the culture that they're bringing over there. It looks like it's fun to play for Herm Edwards and that young staff. So Jaden Daniels, man, hopefully he keeps running it up this year and see him towards the end with a chance to get in that playoff.
I don't know if you call them a sleeper team because they've been really good as a program if you just take it as a large sample size over the last years per se. But very quietly, man, Stanford and Coach Shaw has them playing very well. Come out of the gate, struggling game one, go back to LA, get a big win on the road. I didn't expect too much from Vanderbilt, at home against Stanford, but they just pushed them around and dominated. And it seems like once again they have 2 6'4" receivers on the outside that they can play 50-50 throw the ball up with, tight ends that are huge running down the middle of the field, and then they just want to pound you with that big offensive line.
Yeah, honestly, man, you got to really establish the run, and why it's so important is you got to see if these kids want to tackle. A lot of these kids As the generation is going on, you can't avoid some of these teams. Wisconsin's a team you're going to have to tackle. I think this is a perfect game for Kyle Hamilton to show how versatile he can be, making plays within the box and shutting off those edges and being a good tackler. This team is going to run and they're not going to hide it. So if we can prove that we're tough enough to go toe-to-toe each play and make them tackles in them holes with the line back in play, I feel good that we can handle this tough road schedule.
The only thing I'm worried about early on, I think our linebackers are going to be playing with their hair on fire. I think our defense is going to be motivated.
Yeah, I think Coach.
I don't want to get hurt with that bootleg game with the tight ends running the drags. Paul Chris loves that. Loves it.
Yeah.
And
it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how Paul Chris is countering the aggressive play style of Marcus Freeman. But I know Coach Freeman has challenged his defense this week of being tough and being in them gaps and filling holes and making tackles. I know that's been probably the number one thing on their defensive board this week. But Coach Chris, man, one of the best coaches in college football, hands down, has definitely got something up his sleeve. He's definitely going to boot, definitely going to get Mertz on outside the pocket, making some plays. And they're going to take advantage of the outside. I do think we have the corners to match up with their receivers this week if we go man-to-man. Let's just hope we don't get caught sleeping by thinking they're going to block and they run right past us or something.
Yeah, something like that. So we briefly talked about what we talked about Penn State. Auburn, I told you last week. I'll never buy into Bo Nix.
Yeah, no way. He's just
now that Bigsby kid, the Bigsby kid at running back, I can see him playing on Sundays.
Real deal.
That's real deal.
For having those big, strong running backs.
Man.
Yeah.
Now what I did see is I saw Florida come out in the second half and just basically push Alabama's defensive line around.
Yeah.
It's like Dan Mullen didn't say, look, we're down double digits, man. We got to throw the ball. We're about to punch him in the mouth and get back in this game.
It's number one thing of a play caller. You don't get off script, especially when things are on fire at the time. And Dan Mullen, if anybody you had to go into a fight with against Alabama, that's the guy you want to call. He got the game plan laid out. He just needed players to do it. I think you saw the glimpses of that when he was at Mississippi State. And to him have Dak Prescott looking like that, for him having and challenging Bama like he did, it was just a matter of time when he got around talented guys like people that go to Florida. I mean, he can put it together. He can put a game plan together. He put a lot of points on Bama the year before. I mean, he makes Saban's defense look real regular now. And Saban's another one that they're going to be who they are, and they're going to stick to the principles of what they run. They're just similar to Ohio State, except now, the play calling is making a difference. The coaching is making a difference. And Florida got some talent now. They're not down in the dumps team. They got talent similar to how LSU has talent when they had Joe Burrow and that type of deal. So the SEC is heating up. Alabama's not the number one recruiting school each and every year, and so you're starting to see the results of that in these games here.
Well, one of the things we did talk about in the game that is going to be a big deal if Notre Dame can come away with a victory is that Brian Kelly will be the winningest coach in Notre Dame football history. I want to tip my cap to Brian Kelly. He was asked what it would mean during his press conference, and his response is, I will be the winningest coach in Notre Dame history without a national championship.
I mean, but that's all that matters.
They seem saying like all the other big dogs have national championships that have been coaches here. I don't.
You can't knock a man for trying. Getting the most wins is hard to win in college football. If one thing you can say about Coach Kelly, that man knows how to win some games. He did it at Cincinnati, he did it at Grand Valley.
Grand Valley State, yeah.
He got the Krabby Patty formula for winning football games. However, he's missing that secret ingredient when it comes to them championships. It's just the sauce evades him.
He needs that good burger sauce.
But the only thing he can do to fix it is that he take his toe out of the sauce. He got the Jerry Jones effect when it comes to Notre Dame and where we could go in the national championship. If we want to win a national championship, he can't be the reason. And until that changes,
hey, you know what? Speak on that. Like the ability of a coach to make 10 million, 12 million per year, but to be able to lessen his ego and let his guys be the focal point.
Perfect example. You think about Urban Meyer. When you think about Urban Meyer, your first thoughts are Tim Tebow, Zeke Elliott. You can highlight players instantly.
Yeah.
We got guys right now in the league that you're not thinking of Jalen Smith when you think Brian Kelly. You think Brian Kelly, Notre Dame. You're not thinking of Manti and off the top. Because obviously we got tons of great players, but when you think of Coach Kelly, you don't think of players. You think of Coach Kelly. So, and you can even talk Dabo Swinney. You talk Dabo Swinney, first thing you think Deshaun Watson. You think DeAndre. You think Trevor Lawrence. You think the quarterback situations. You think all the D linemen he done had and all the, And so, point being is that he's got to take the pride, I think, not even the pride. I don't even know how you say this. It just can't be about Coach Kelly if we want to win a championship. Even in the 2012,
is 14. Is 14 the perfect opportunity for him to change that perception?
2014, 2015, we had enough of the right stars.
But I'm saying, is Kyle Hamilton that dude now? Is he the perfect dude for him to change that perception?
Kyle Hamilton will get us there, but it takes a quarterback to take us over the top.
You're right.
I think Kyle Hamilton has all the necessary pieces around him to establish his top five pick in the draft next year. And he can take us to a championship, but he can't win it for us.
Oh, so we got to have our own version of TB12 next year. That's basically what you're saying.
I mean, you look at all the quarterbacks that won championships, they damn near was Tom Brady. Joe Burrow was Tom Brady in that one season.
Yeah.
Joe was damn near Tom Brady in that one season. I mean, these are the teams that have been winning are putting up numbers that are all-time great. All-time. Alabama's offense was all-time great. Joe Burrow's offense when he won was all-time great. Deshaun Watson offense was all-time great. Like, you put them in the records of records of records.
I'll tell you the coach that I think was the coldest at being able to know who he was, being comfortable in his skin, and allowing his players to be the stars. And that was Pete Carroll at USC.
Oh, yeah.
That dude, that run he had.
Because the difference with Pete Carroll is Pete Carroll cared about winning. And when winning is the most and only important thing, guys can get behind that on an equal level. If you putting players in the front, meaning like if you're just trying to highlight one specific guy outside of the culture being winning, like when we had Brady Quinn, it was Brady Quinn and the Notre Dame Mets or the Quinnettes, It wasn't like winning at all costs. Urban Meyer's winning at all costs with some stars. There's a difference. You can win it with some stars. But
Notre Dame Mets, bro.
The Notre Dame Mets. It was Brady Quinn. I don't even remember anybody that played with Brady Quinn other than Michael Floyd, right? And but that was
come on, they had Jeff Samardzija.
Right, but it was talking about Brady.
Darius Walker. Yeah, Brady was a star.
He was the guy.
Brady was the star.
Now
Stovall. Yeah, Brady was the star though.
He was just the guy, and even with LSU in that season, Joe Burrow was the guy. But man, the culture was just everything. Everybody was the star. And that's kind of the feel that you need getting over that hump. Deshaun Watson, when he won, everybody was damn near the star. Everybody I thought was first round that they had that year. So it's a team culture that needs to be created, but it doesn't involve the coach being the number one.
All right, that's the slant this week. Go right now. Check us out. Apple Podcasts. You can get every piece of content that we put out. It's available. Search A2S Network, and it'll be right there for you.
Let's get it.
For you to check out. That's right there. It's scrolling right there at the bottom. Subscribe to Lucky Lefty Podcast on the YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. And then follow us at Lucky Lefty Pod. That's Instagram and Twitter. And we're doing big things on LinkedIn as well.
Hey, LinkedIn is the plug.
There's the plug. And thank you for everybody. As I said before, we broke records last week. Up subscribers, views, everything. And I look at it daily and it gets better and better. So let's keep grinding, keep rocking with us. We're going to be back tomorrow. As I said before, we'll have a special guest. We'll tap into a little bit deeper into Wisconsin, Notre Dame coming up. We'll give you, of course, Malik's keys to a dub. We'll talk about that. I have a special guest, former Notre Dame defensive lineman, former 49ers defensive lineman, Ian Williams is going to join us. I got some stories out of Ian about this dude, Lefty.
That's right.
I know he has some stories. I got to get one out of him. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll look forward to the NFL Week 3 as if the Bears will finally unleash Justin Fields, or will they try to throw Andy Dalton out there on a torn MCL, trying to act like he's all right?
Chicago's going to hold on to the end.
Man, we got back. Man, by the time
y'all might even bring Nick Foles back.
By the time Notre Dame, Wisconsin get through running the ball 80 times, they might not have a field to play on.
They're going to have to find a different field. That field's going to be jacked. Those two teams going to be jacked up.
All right. For my guy, Malik, Zaire, I am Shaun Davis. We'll rock with you tomorrow when we preview Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and get into NFL Week 3 and his keys to a dub right here on the Lucky Lefty Podcast. This has been the Slant. Lock in with us. We spin it different.
Always.
Yep.